Here I want to show you how you can insert and or link data from Excel into your document. For example, in my Excel workbook, it contains a bunch of data for my monthly sales that I want to pull into my document here and also link to it. So if anybody makes any changes to that Excel workbook, it'll automatically update and reflect those changes over here in my document. Sound totally tinsel? I knew it would. So before I go ahead and insert the contents of my Excel workbook into the document here, let's see what we're inserting. So let's come up here and minimize this down to the taskbar so I can see my desktop. There's the document that we're in that I minimized, and adjacent to it is the Excel workbook that contains the data that I want to insert into my document. So let's double click to open it up, and there it is in the upper left hand corner, my Essential Oils monthly sales. Now we're going to insert it as an object first, and when you do it this way, you want to make sure that when you insert it, that whatever you want to pull in from Excel is the first worksheet in the workbook, because that's the only sheet it'll pull over. So sheet 1's the first worksheet. I'm good with that. And if not, then you want to move it so it's the first worksheet. And then second of all, you want to make sure that there's nothing else within that worksheet because it will pull everything. So if I have something down below, like in column J, row 20, it'll pull everything from A1 down to J20. You see what I'm saying? So just keep it simple here. In any case, let's go ahead and take it for a test drive, close out of here, restore my document, and then come up here, click on the Insert tab, go to the text group, and there you go. To insert it as an object or embed the object, such as another Word document or an Excel chart, or in this case, an Excel spreadsheet, or our mini database within the spreadsheet. You can also click on the corresponding drop-down arrow. You get the same thing, the object, but you can also insert text from a file. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, if you have another document that you want to insert all the text into your document here, instead of opening up that other document and copying and pasting it, you can just go ahead and click on this. It opens up the window, select your document, click on Insert, and voila, pulls in everything from that document. So let's come back up here, having said that, and click on Object, so we can insert Excel as an object. And we want to create this from the file, and the file is on the desktop, so let's go ahead and click on Browse to find it. There's my desktop, and it's right there. You can just go ahead and double click on it, and you can see down below it'll insert the contents of your file in the document, so you can edit it later using the application which created the source file. But I also want to link to it so it updates it, and it shows you any changes made in the source file will automatically reflect over in the document here. So let's go ahead and click Okie dokie. Looks good. Now I left the last row, the month of June, empty, so when we open up our workbook, let's go ahead and right click on the Excel program to get the jump list and open up linking to Excel. There we go. That when we come in here and we make some changes, let's go ahead and update by adding some numbers here. Okay, let's go ahead and click Save. And then go back to our document. Now, it doesn't automatically update if the document's already open, so you have to kind of give it a nudge. So you can go ahead and right-click anywhere on the table there, because when you insert a spreadsheet into Word, it's now a table. And in the shortcut menu, you can update the link. Oh, that's fabulous. Click on Update, and it actually pulled in some extra space, so I might have added like a space down below in this column, that row. So you want to keep that in mind. So it inserts everything. In any case, you may want to go back and clean it up a bit, or you can come over here and try the resizing handles, but then it shrinks everything, so that's probably not a good idea. So let's try something now. I'm going to go ahead and save this and close out of it. So after I close out of it, let's do some updates. In fact, let's just go back to removing all the numbers and say, oh, I changed my mind, and click Save, and then close out of Excel. So we're back to our desktop. Now let's go ahead and open up the document that's now linked to the Excel workbook. Double click, and it gives you a pop-up that says the document contains links that may refer to other files. Do you want to update this document with the data from the link files? If you say yes, then let me click and drag the title bar out of the way. It'll update and clear this out. If you say no, it leaves it as is, in which case let's close out. We don't want to save it. Well, you can go ahead and save it if you like, and then double click again. And it reminds us we're still linked. Okay, fine, go ahead and yes, update it. Oh, it actually collapsed back in on itself. That's fabulous. So you can see that there's nothing in June reflecting exactly what we did in the Excel workbook. Sweet. And then if you want to make changes to it, guess what? You can right-click anywhere on the table and go down to Linked Worksheet Object, and you can either edit or open the link. It does the same thing. So edit, opens up the Excel workbook. Let's close out. Or you can right-click, Linked Worksheet Object to open. Opens up the same thing. And then you can go ahead and make your changes. 1, 2, 3. Pretty simple, right? Let's go ahead and click Save and close out. Cool. And of course, if it doesn't automatically update, you can right-click and update. And then you can also right-click if you'd like and go to Linked Worksheet Object and go down to Links. Opens up the window and it says it's linking to, and you can see down below the source file, the address from the hard drive, the C drive, the user that's logged in as training on the desktop, and that's the name of the file. Now, if somebody takes that file and moves it into another folder so it's not on the desktop, it'll be broken. So if the link's broken, it'll either prompt you when you open it up saying, we can't find this, can you please find it for us? Or you can come in here and go ahead and click on Change Source, which brings up a good point, to go ahead and find if you want to change it and link to another Excel workbook that has something else. And then just go ahead and select it, click Open, and it'll now point to that source. And so if the source has been moved into another folder, click Change Source, find it in that folder, select it, and it will be linked to it. And then finally, if you want to break the link and say, no, you know what, I just want the snapshot in time, I don't want a continuous update, and we'll say, yes, we want to break it, and now it's just a picture. It's not a table, although it looks like a table. But you can see up here, when you select it now, you get the related format tab for picture tools, so it sees it as a picture. So you can't click into it to make any changes. So when you right click on it, you don't get the update link, and we'll just go ahead and hit the delete key and do it another way. So you can insert it as an object if you like, or let's go ahead and right click on the Excel shortcut on the taskbar to the program and go back to our most recent Excel workbook linking to Excel. And let's select the range that we want to include. So this may be more beneficial to you if you have a lot of information scattered throughout sheet 1 and you don't want to pull in everything, but you want to be selective. Well, go ahead and select it and then Control-C to copy and then go back to the document. And when it comes to pasting, well, Control-V is in Victor to paste, and then you get the little smart tag. So it says after you paste it, what do you want to do? Click on the paste options. Right now, it's not linked, but if you want it linked, then you can come over here and you see the link there. So you got two link options, that little link in the chain that says you can link and keep the source formatting, or you can link and use the destination style. So whatever current style theme in this document is, well, that's what it's going to be. So you choose, let's go ahead and use link destination. There we go. So now that it's linked, you can go ahead and right click and you can update the link, and also again, you can edit the link, open up the link. Let's edit, opens it up, and then of course you can go ahead and make your changes. You get the marching ants because it still thinks it's in copy mode. Well, you learned that in my Excel training video. If it annoys you, hit the escape key and it clears them out. And so if I delete, and I go back to my document, cool, it's got it updated. And of course I can go ahead and type in whatever I want, but if I do that and I click Save, it doesn't go back the other way. So if I go back to my Excel workbook, you see it doesn't go back. And so if I go back to my document and I right click to do an update, it clears it out. So you can go do something temporary there and then just know when you want to update it, or when you close out of the document, open it back up, prompts you for the update, you can say yes. And not only that, but you actually get, when you click inside of it, your table tools, so it sees it as a table. Of course, you can hover over the bottom right-hand corner, get resizing handles, click and drag. You can just do so much more here. Well, let's go ahead and right-click on the tag here and delete the table. And let's do it one more time. We can insert it as an object again when you copy and paste. If you want to insert it as an object and you don't want to come up here, click on the Insert tab and go to the text box and click on Object. Let's go back to the Home tab. Let's come over here to the workbook. Again, click and drag to select, Control-C to copy, and go back to the document. And then this time, up here on the Home tab, you can click on the Paste drop-down arrow and do something special. Paste Special, click on it, and there you go. You can go ahead and paste it here or do a paste link and select Microsoft Excel Worksheet Object. So, okie dokie. And of course, you can go ahead and select it because it's linked. You can right click and, well, we went through this, so cool. Let's go ahead and delete that and do Paste Special again. And we'll paste the link as an Excel object, but this time let's display it as an icon. And you can change the icon if you don't want it as a generic Excel workbook icon. In any case, click Okie dokie. How does that work? Well, if you're going through your document and you want to just be able to reference it and not actually see everything, you can right click on it and go down to Link Worksheet. So it's like a link. You can go ahead and open it up and then go, oh, that's nice. You know, as a reference, something that you can actually not display within the workbook, the entire worksheet, but as a nice link that you can right click and go ahead and open up the Excel workbook outside of Word here. And of course, you can go ahead and resize that. Doesn't matter. You can still right click and get that option to edit or open up to view the contents therein. So you can say, oh, monthly sales. You don't have this big, huge spreadsheet if you have a lot of information there that you like to keep track of, but you got a simple link. I want to show you how you can convert your document, like I have here on Yummy Bears, into a PowerPoint presentation. And if you don't know anything about PowerPoint, then I recommend that you watch my training videos on it. But in short, PowerPoint is a presentation program. It does a lot of the same things that Word does, like you can type text, insert images, objects, draw shapes. But the biggest difference is that once you do all that in PowerPoint, you can actually animate any of it, as well as movies and audio, which you can add to PowerPoint as well. So in PowerPoint, I could take my title here, Yummy Bears, and have it fly in from the right, zoom, like that, all animated. And with that sound effect, because it can record my voice, but they have better sound effects that you can use. In any case, you don't want to do too much in PowerPoint, because if that's all you did was all these gee whiz effects, as in gee whiz, look at what I can do, where they fly in, they come in, they fade in, they twist and turn, well, you're going to lose your audience because they're only focused on either getting dizzy and sick or what next effect is going to be coming up. In any case, what you can see here is the text I want to give a presentation on, but to copy it over to PowerPoint, which I could go ahead and select all of it and copy and paste it into PowerPoint, but instead I want to use the Send to PowerPoint feature, because that feature will only copy over from my document things like bulleted lists and any heading styles that I applied to my text. Now, why doesn't it pull over all the text? The whole purpose of PowerPoint is not to read. That's a Word document. So if you want them to read things, I would recommend go ahead and printing off your document here and using it as a handout, which some people do during presentations. But the presentation, the slides that you show up on the screen, is just supposed to focus on your main points and your subpoints like I have here. So I've got, well, when I click anywhere within the text up here on the Home tab in the Styles group, there you go. There's my heading style 1, the main point, and then the subpoints to the main point, like flavors. That's heading style 2, and that's also heading style 2 as well. And when I select or click within that paragraph, that's normal, so that's not going to pull over. So just the main points and the subpoints, or anything that has a heading style applied to it, and also any bulleted list or numbered list or outline lists. Because again, we're just focusing on main points or key points from our heading styles and also our lists. And then we can go ahead in the PowerPoint presentation, show that up on the screen, and then have some other mediums like audio, a picture, video, and grab their attention more because, well, when I'm a presenter, I notice that my audience, when I put a lot of text up there, they start reading ahead of me going, okay, that's what that's about. I can clock out and not pay attention. So I'll just give them keywords and say, okay, this is what we're talking about, and maybe just a few points like our cookies are bigger. Maybe we want to avoid high fructose corn syrup, so it's not as sweet as normal, things like that. And so it becomes less of a reading, but more of a thinking presentation to have it more interactive. And so we have our main point, Snickerdoodles, heading 1, subpoint, oversight or overbite, supports that heading 2. And then our earnings from our oversight or overbite, well, you can't see it up here because it's not heading 2, it's a subheading to heading 2, which is heading 3, and then of course a subheading to the subheading to the subheading would be heading 4, but we're not doing that. So when I send this over to PowerPoint by using the Send to PowerPoint feature, anything that has a heading 1 style will be the title for every slide. And then in that slide, for the title that's on the slide, Snickerdoodles, all subheadings like heading 2 and heading 3 will be bulleted points, or points that when I cover Snickerdoodles on that slide are the things that I want to talk about. Now when it comes to bullets, well, I got a mix of headings, subheadings, and then the bullets. We'll see how it handles that. It's not as clean than if we just had either heading styles throughout our document or no heading styles and just a bulleted list. We'll see what happens. In any case, to go ahead and send this over, our heading styles and our bulleted lists to the PowerPoint program, we need to come up here and add that command to the Quick Access program, which before I do that, you could say, well, can I just copy and paste that over into PowerPoint? Well, you can as far as the main points go, because again, PowerPoint is just the presentation, not an entire document. So we're just presenting main points that we can discuss during the presentation. So you could copy your heading 1 styles and then go over and paste it. But when you use the Send to PowerPoint feature, it does that for you. You may have to rearrange a bit if it's not in the exact place you'd like to see it, but it's there. And you don't have to have 2 separate windows to go from one to copy to paste into the other. So let's come up here and right-click anywhere on the Quick Access toolbar to customize it. And then go from Popular Commands to All Commands, and it gets sorted numerically first and alphabetically. So let's go down to the S's because the first word in the command is send, so hence send to Microsoft PowerPoint. Let's click and drag the scrolly bar. And there it is, send to PowerPoint or Microsoft PowerPoint. Double click on it to add it over to the right, click Okie dokie, adds it to the Quick Access toolbar. And you can see, well, you got your document here, the first icon with the little arrow pointing over to PowerPoint. So it's going to send it over there in a single click. Click. Opens up PowerPoint, and there we go. We have a total of 5 slides. Let's see how it handles it. So on the first slide, like I said, any heading 1 styles are going to be the titles for the slides. So that checks out. But then we got our subheadings or heading 2 styles under the Yummy Bears, which is flavors. And that's right. But where are the flavors? Well, the bulleted points, it looks like coconut, maple syrup, and chocolate got their own. And, well, the other subheading, because I had 2 for Yummy Bears, flavors, and target audience, got dumped on the last one, but it put the bulleted point as the title for the slide to the sub point. And so that didn't work out quite the way I'd like it. But in any case, it's up to you how you want to rearrange it. Like I said, when it comes to sending to PowerPoint, when you have a mix of bullets and heading styles, it gets a little bit tricksy there, but it brought it all over, so you can just simply rearrange it if you'd like. In fact, the last slide, slide number 5, when you just have all heading styles, that's how actually it displays it. So the heading style 1 is the title for the slide. Any subheadings to the main heading style are bulleted points. So over in the document, that was heading style 2. And then over in the document, these 2 for the earnings were heading style 3. So they're sub-bullets to the bullet, which is a sub-point to the main point here. And if we had heading 4 styles, they would be indented over underneath the earnings here. So you'd be able to see the hierarchical structure. So like I said, it brings over the heading styles, the bulleted points, so that way you don't have to copy and paste, and then you can just rearrange them if they're not exactly the way you'd like it over here in PowerPoint. There's a couple ways you can go about emailing your document off. You could go ahead and copy the contents therein and paste it into the body of the message of your email program. And assuming that you're using Outlook 2016 as your email program, that will help because that's what we're going to be using to send it off. You can open that up and also send it as an attachment, or you can use the Send to Mail Recipient feature. And to use that feature, you have to add that command to the Quick Access toolbar. So to do that, let's right-click anywhere on it. So we can customize it, click on that, change it from Popular Commands to All Commands. And because it begins the command with the word send, the letter S, let's click and drag and scroll down to the S's. And there we go, Send to Mail Recipient. Double click on it to add it over to the right. Click OK, adds it to the Quick Access toolbar. And you can see send to mail recipient. Click on it. Opens up the document, and it gives you the option of who you want to email this to. Well, I'll email it to myself, specialk@videotrainingpro.com. Hit the tab key, and the subject, well, that's going to be the name of the document. You can go ahead and I'll delete that and say it's my special poem. And then the introduction, which is interesting because that's proprietary to this feature. Whatever you type in that box, it's going to add it down below into the body of the message, but separate that with the line underneath the introduction. Well, I'll show you what I mean in just a minute. So there we go. There's totally no other way. So when you're ready, just go ahead and click on Send a Copy. And then away it goes. And where does it go? Well, I click on Start. It goes to my Outlook 2016 program. And it's in the Outbox here. Double click, it's sitting in the Outbox until I hit Send and Receive. But because I opened it up, I can send it in just a minute. But I wanted to show you what it looks like. So the introduction is put right at the top of the message, and it separates it with the line from the rest of the message down below, or what used to be the document. And when I'm ready, go ahead and click Send, and it goes. Of course, it's going to come back to me in my inbox because, well, it's sent to me, so happy days. Double click. Oh, that's a nice poem. And of course, if you want to learn more about Outlook, it's more than just sending and receiving emails. You can also have pop-up reminders for your tasks and assign tasks to others, for your scheduled appointments, meetings, keep track of your contacts. Oh, it's a lot. Go ahead and watch my Outlook training videos. And then when we go back to our document, well, right back to where we were. You can keep that command up there until you want to do it again in another document, or right-click on it to, of course, remove it. User information is a way to personalize your copy of files you create Microsoft Office programs with your name and initials. And notice how I said Microsoft Office and not Microsoft Word. And I'll explain that by going backstage in Word, clicking on the File tab, down to Options. General is selected by default. Just come down below where it says personalize your copy of Microsoft Office. Now it says Office and it doesn't say Word because what you type in here will be updated in all the other Office programs like PowerPoint, Access, Excel. And the reason being is because when it comes to making changes to your documents, modifications, or inserting comments, things like that, well, when you're collaborating with other people, isn't it nice to know who's doing it? Well, that's the whole purpose here. So you can make it easier to go, oh, you're the one who made the change, Kurt Kershaw, and the initials. So if you haven't updated this yet, I recommend that you do that, unless you want to remain anonymous. In any case, go ahead and type that in, and when you do that, it'll update everything, man. So let's go ahead and do this. Let me change it to Slarty B with the initials SB, and then click Okie dokie, and then go backstage, click on File, and Info selected by default, and notice down below where it says Last Modified By. Okay, so I updated the username, but I haven't modified it yet, so when I click back and I make some modifications under the pseudonym of Slarty B, I'm just going to delete the exclamation point, a simple modification, and when I click Save, let's go backstage to check on it. It still says it's Kurt Kershaw, and the reason being because it doesn't refresh itself until you close out of it and open it back up. So let's close out of our document. It's there on the desktop. Let me double click to open it back up. Go backstage, File. Hey, now it's updated with Slarty B. That's great. In fact, while I'm here, or focused on the username and initials, just the username here, let's open up another Office program, Excel. It's pinned down to my taskbar. Let me click on it to open it up. To show you that what you do in one with the user information, it will update in all the others. So let's go backstage, File, down to Options, General is selected by default, down below to personalize your copy, it's Slarty B. Of course, it doesn't have the initials, but the initials are more for PowerPoint and Word. So when you add comments for reviews and things like that, more so for adding comments. So you can have your initials when you add comments, KK, or in this case, SB for Slarty B. And so if I go ahead and update it here, Kurt Kershaw, and click Okie dokie, and then close out of Excel, you don't have to click Save. And then I come back here and go down to Options. And there's Kurt Kershaw, but of course it's still SB. So as far as PowerPoint and Word goes, when they want your initials, well, let's go ahead and make the change in one, and it'll update the other. And then go ahead and click Okie dokie. Cool. And so, for example, one more. When I come up here and click on the Review tab, and I want to insert a new comment, click on it. It's got my name. Isn't that cool? In any case, we'll talk about that in another training video, but I wanted to show you how important it is that when you do things like adding comments or making changes, hey, who's doing all this? Well, now you know. And where's it coming from? The Personalize Your Copy of Microsoft Office section. That can be set, of course, backstage. So let me go ahead and click off, and you'll see this come more into play in later training videos, this feature. The Email Document for Review feature not only allows you to email your document out to whoever you want to send it to, but it'll also track in the color red any changes that other person makes to your document. So when they send it back, there won't be any second guesses to the changes they made because you'll see it in the color red. So to go ahead and send this off for review, we need to add the command to the Quick Access toolbar, and we can do that by right-clicking anywhere on it. To customize it, click on it. Change it from popular commands to all commands, and the name of the command is send for review. So let's click and drag the scrolly bar down to the S's for send, and there it is. Let's go ahead and double click on it to add it over to the right. Click Okie dokie, adds it up to the Quick Access toolbar. Click on it, give it a second. Well, it opens up the email message here down below. Click on it to bring it up. And it opens up the Outlook 2016 program here, or the message part of it. And it says, who do you want to send it to? Well, go ahead and type in an email address. And because I've already used Carrie Heffernan before, when I type in K, it prompts me for the email address that I can then hit the tab key to pull in her email address. And then the subject, please review. And in quotes or single quotes there, it's got the name of the document, email document review. There's the name of the document and the document that's attached. And then down below in the body of the message, please review the attached document. And you can come down in here and type in any extra messages you want and say, please hurry, pronto, or in the subject, change that, whatever you'd like. And then when you're ready, go ahead and click send. And when you send it off, well, when you click send, if you're using Outlook 2016, it'll sit in the outbox until you, well, let me click on Start to open up Outlook 2016. And there's the outbox. And it sits in there. Well, it just sent it off, but it won't send it off until I actually open up Outlook. In any case, you can learn more about that by watching my Outlook training videos. So now that I sent it off to Carrie, when she gets the email, she'll go to her inbox. And then let's pretend this is the email. She'll double click on it to open it up. She'll see the attachment. She'll double click on the attachment and it'll open up in Microsoft Word. She'll make her changes to it, and when she's done, it'll force her to save it to the computer because it won't save it back into the message. So when it saves it to her computer, she'll go ahead and come up here and click Reply, opens it up, and then she'll come up here and click on Insert to attach that file that's on her computer. Click on it, and it tries to remember the most recent files here. Otherwise, you'll have to come down here and browse the PC. Find it somewhere on your desktop, double click on it, and it's attached. And then she can come down below and say, Carrie. In any case, then she'll send it off. That's how she's going to do it on her end. But this is our end. This is just an explanation for her end. Let's go ahead and close out of that and not save it. And then let's go ahead and close out of here. And while we're waiting for her to make changes and send it back to us, let's go back to the document here because there's something else I want to go over. You can go ahead and use this feature to not only send it, but to go ahead and tell the document to keep track of all the changes that are going to be made, or you can do it the long way. You can come over here and click on the Review tab, go to the Tracking group, and click on Track Changes. And then you can go ahead and save the document and then attach it to an email and send it off. Because that right there is what's keeping track of any changes that anybody makes, including me. So if I come down here and I double click to select strobing and I delete that, and I say flashing the night, and maybe some other changes like chest heaves and exasperation, maybe writers open wide and exasperation. Well, it's keeping track of all of it, and you don't see it over here, but over to the far right, you've got these little track changes bars you can click on that when you click on any one of these, and the reason why it's over there is because it's indicating to me that there's been a change made on that line. So let me go ahead and click off of it so I can look through the document and go, oh, she made changes to this line and that line. If I want to see them, again, just go ahead and click on it on any one of them, and it opens up all changes that were made. And so you can see any changes that were made are in red, well, when it comes to deletions that I made. So it shows me what I deleted with a red line through it and what I added in blue. So that's pretty cool. And that's what I'm going to see when I open up Carrie's document when she sends it back to me. And we'll talk about this track changes feature in another training video, but I wanted to give you a heads up that it's a 2-in-1 feature when you come up here and you add that to the quick access toolbar, because we'll send the email off, but it'll turn the track changes on. So let's go ahead and close out of here and not save it. And Carrie says that she's got it done now, and so she's sending it back to me now. Let's go ahead and click on Send Receive. And there she did it. So let's go ahead and double click. She says, here you go. Great. Let's go ahead and double click and open up the attached document. And up here it says, oh, please be careful. Do you trust this person? It may contain a virus. I better trust her. Let's go ahead and say Enable Editing. And it gives us some options, because what it's looking at is it's looking at the document that I have on my desktop, the email document for review. It's a copy of it that Carrie's sending back to me, and it wants to know if I want to go ahead and merge the changes she made back into that document. I can say yes, no, don't ask again. Let's go ahead and say yes. And it looks like Word freaked out and it crashed, and so it did a recovery. Well, glad it brought it back. Great. And we got a split window here. If I don't want the split window, I can hover in between the two split windows, the line there, until I can see arrows pointing up and down, and double click really fast just to get rid of that. And it looks like it's in web mode and not print layout. Well, in any case, it's your flavor. Let me go down and click on print layout. I prefer that. In any case, you can see over to the right, we've got those editing, what I call bars there, to show the track changes if you want to see them. Go ahead and click on it, and okay. So she deleted the line through the sky and replaced it with firmament, strobing she didn't like night, she wanted darkness. And then she crossed out that. All right, well, I like the mare's nostril flare. She can also add comments to this. In any case, we cover that in another training video. This is just to get you out the door here. We go over more details, and when she sends it back to me, you can see that the track changes is turned off, so any changes that I make when I type in extra text, I don't get that bar over to the right-hand side because it's not keeping track of it. So it's turned off after she makes her changes and sends it back to me. Which brings up a good point. When she gets the document, she can just come up here and click to turn off track changes and then send it back to me, and I'm like, okay, what changes did you make? But there are some ways to get around that. You can secure it, lock it so she can't turn it off, or you can go ahead and do a merge as we just did here. In any case, those are additional training videos, because otherwise this would turn into, a really super long training video. And then as a heads up, when it comes to the changes she made, in another training video, you can, in the Changes group on the Review tab, either accept or reject those changes. Sound pretty cool? The Track Changes feature will keep track of changes anybody makes to this document in color. But before I show you how to turn it on, it's a good idea to set up your username as we went over in earlier training videos. Because when you make a change with Track Changes, it will stamp your username to that change. And that's very helpful if you're collaborating with a bunch of people on the same document and they all make changes to it. Then you'll be able to see exactly who made what changes and when. So first of all, username. Let's come up here and click on the File tab. Go down to Options. General selected by default, so just come down below to personalize your copy of Microsoft Office. And hey, there I am. Cool. And also your initials. And you can type in whatever you like, but now you know that when I make changes to the document, it's going to be me. I'm going to go ahead and click Cancel. And to turn on the track changes, it's as simple as coming up here, clicking on the Review tab, going to the Tracking group, and there you go. You can either click on the Track Changes button or click on the drop-down arrow And the first option, well, that's the same image as the button, so either or. Let me go ahead and click on it here, and it's turned on. How do you know? Well, the button is highlighted. That's one way. Or the other way to find out is that when you start typing in some text, it's going to highlight it, keep track of it in the color blue with an underline to it. And if I make any deletions, like let's go ahead and select Heaves, hit the delete key, it puts it in red with the strike through it. And so after you make a bunch of changes, if you want to be able to hide all the markups within the document and just go with your changes, well, you can do it one of a couple of ways. Over to the far right, you get these lines on the same line that has the change. So that way, when you hover over it and it says hide track changes, when you click on it, it goes from gray to red. So when you're reading through the document, you're like, hey, I don't recall this being here. What's going on? Just quickly glance over to your right and go, oh, there's a red line on this line, meaning that something's changed on this line. So if you want to go ahead and click on it, it shows it and reveals not only the changes on that line, but all the other lines as well. And so if there's a lot of deletions, it's probably best to go ahead and hide it when you're going through the document, because when you reveal it, it takes up a lot of lines. And so you can hide and easily navigate through your document. And when you get to the line that has the changes you want to keep track of, then go ahead and expose it. Now you can do it that way, or you can come up here on the Review tab in the Tracking group, and you can see when I hover on All Markup, it says choose how you'd like to see changes in this document. Right now it's showing All. When I click on the lines here, it goes to Simple. So, All or Simple, or hide the changes, but reveal the simple markup that says, hey, this red line over here on that line means a change has been made on that line. You can also choose to say no markup. When you do that, it gets rid of the simple markup, and it goes with the changes that I made. Instead of chest heaves, it's now chest explodes, and of course it's got my start typing in some text here. So let's go ahead and change this to, how about the original? Because if you don't remember what it was like originally and you want to see what it was, go ahead and select that, and it goes back from, well, explodes to heaves, and there's not some extra text that was typed there. Cool. Let's go ahead and change that and go back to All Markup. And if you don't like the colors of the markup or the strike-throughs or the underlines, let's go ahead and see what options we get by clicking on the expandable dialog box button for the Tracking group. Click on it, that little arrow, and look at that. You can go ahead and choose whether or not you want to see insertions and deletions as opposed to anything else when it comes to viewing your track changes. But let's go to Advanced Options, and there you go. The insertions will be underlined and in the color blue. If you don't like that, click on the drop down arrow and say you don't want anything, or maybe you just want color only or in bold, and then, well, choose your color. You can also choose by author, which means Word will assign a color to each author, but I don't want to be assigned a color. I want to go with blue. And then deletions, well, you can do the same thing. You can change it from strike through or the color red. And then the changed lines, right now, it's on the outside borders, and we're in print layout view and not reading view. And so in print layout view, everything's over to the right-hand side. In reading view, it would be on the right-hand side and the left, or the outside borders. So when you click on the drop-down arrow, you can say you just want it on the left border, so it will change it from the right to the left, but you know what, I'm going to go with outside border. I'm cool with that. And then comments, you can do it by author when it comes to inserting comments, which we'll do in just a minute. As you can see, it's right there. And then when you move things around, you can track those moves from one color to the next, and also track formatting. So when you change it from bold to italics, or you clear out the formatting. In any case, let's keep it simple. Click cancel, and let's do those comments, because when it comes to making changes, I don't know about you, but I'd like to know why. Why are you making these changes? So you can go ahead, if you want to explain why you deleted the word heaves, you can leave a comment for that word one of many ways. You can either click adjacent to the word, because when you insert the comment, it's going to select whatever's next to the flashing cursor to insert the comment or to tie the comment to. So if you come up here on the Review tab to the Comments group and click on New Comment, there you go. It selects the word here that the cursor was flashing next to and puts a line out into, well, past the margin here with my name and the time a few seconds ago, hardly, more like less than a half a second in any case. You can do it that way, or, well, you can hit undo to get rid of it, but let me redo it to add it back. You can delete it here, or right-click on the comment itself, and in the shortcut menu, delete it there to get rid of your comments. So like I said, you can go ahead and do it that way when it comes to inserting comments, or just right-click on the word, and in the shortcut menu, we can also insert a comment that way. Click on it, and there you go. So let's go ahead and type in why I deleted heaves. I think the word explode sounds more desperate than heaves, and a happy face, because, nobody wants to see their document all marked up, so you got to keep them happy with a happy face in any case. When you're done with your comment, go ahead and click off of it, and it's going to show that as part of the markups. And so when it comes to working with your document, you can scroll back so you don't have to see that part when you're working on the main part. And if you do want to see it, instead of scrolling back and forth, or you don't, well, you get the zoom options. You can go ahead and click and zoom in so you don't see that part, the comments, or you can go ahead and click and zoom out. But if you zoom in and you want to see the comment, you don't have to click and drag over to read it. You can just simply go ahead and hover over it, and you get the pop-up. As you can see there, I think explode sounds more desperate than heaves. And what's nice about hiding the markups, as we learned just a few minutes ago, that when I click on it, well, it gets rid of the comment, it hides it, goes to simple markup, so that way I can go back to, let me click on the View tab, to page width, and not have to focus on the comments over to the far right as I go through the rest of the document. Let's go back to review. Okay, let's go ahead and go from simple markup to all markup. Let me click on this so we can see our comment over to the far right and scroll over. And you can see within here, wow, that was 7 minutes ago. You see the breaks I take? They're very long. You can go ahead and click reply, or if this was somebody else's name, it's the same thing, but I'm replying to myself, and that's okay. And I can type in some more text, and if I'm like, you know what, that's good, I want to resolve it, come over here and click on it, and it seals it. And if you want to go ahead and reopen the case, well, go ahead and click on reopen. You don't even have to click on reopen. You can go ahead and click on reply, and it continues down below. And then click off, and then you can see that it resolved that thread, but from this point forward, well, we got a problem. So if I want to go ahead and click in here and reply, it's a new thread. But if I want to reopen the one above, let's go ahead and click on reopen. It reopens everything. So let's go ahead and resolve it and leave it as is from that point forward. And let's slide back here. And just as easily as we came up here to turn the track changes on, anybody can come up here and deselect it to turn it off. So if they do that and they come in here and they start typing in, you see how it's not keeping track of anything? Let me go ahead and hit undo. I don't want that there. That you may want to go about this another way. You may want to go ahead and lock down somebody from turning off the track changes feature. And you can do that one of a couple of ways. You can either come back up here to the tracking group and click on the track changes drop down arrow and lock it. So you can see in the pop-up you have to use a password to be able to turn off track changes. Click on it and it says prevent other authors from turning this off. Type in a password. It says it's optional. And what it means by that is that if I leave it empty and click okie dokie and somebody wants to turn off track changes and they come up here and they try to deselect it, they can't do it. They have to actually go out of their way, so it's not really a mistake if they're just clicking up here happily. They have to click on the drop down arrow to deselect it. So now it goes from something that we couldn't click on to turn off to, now we can go ahead and click on it to deselect it to turn it off. But if you don't want even that, because you want to make sure that they don't even get that chance to go out of their way to go ahead and turn it off, well, click on it, go down to lock, type in a pass for password. Well, you type in whatever works for you, then type it in again to confirm it. And it says it's not a security feature. Well, it may not be as secure as we think, but at least this way they can't turn it off without the password. And go ahead and click okie dokie. Then when they come up here, we can't turn it off. When they click on the drop down arrow and they try to deselect it so they can turn it off, okay, it requires a password, PASS, hit enter. Cool. Then they can come up here and turn it off. Well, let's go ahead and instead of doing it that way, come over here on the Review tab to the Protect to restrict editing. You can click on that to do it that way. Opens up the task pane. And so what we're looking at here is step 2. You want to make sure it says track changes. Click on the drop down arrow. You get other options, but for this example, we want to be able to turn on track changes and we want to enforce it, the protection that is. So click on yes, and we can type in a password or not, but we want to make sure it's secure. So type in PASS, hit the tab key, confirm it, type in the same password, hit enter, and now it's on. So when we close out of here, and we're like doing nefarious things going, hey, I want to turn this off. And somebody's in here going, oh, I don't want them to keep track of what I'm doing in here. So they come up here and they try to click on it. They can't do it. They click on the drop down arrow to lock tracking. Well, you can type in the password there or click cancel. You can come over here, click on protect to restrict editing, and come down below and click on stop protection, in which case you still need the password. Hit enter. Cool. Now it's no longer enforced. And in fact, the track changes is no longer highlighted, so any changes you make, well, it won't keep track of it. Now, in the next training video, you can go through the document and accept or reject changes, that way making it more permanent instead of just, let me close out of here, coming over here into the margin area and hiding them and revealing them. You can actually say, look, I really want to go with the changes. I don't want to hide them or reveal them anymore. I want to get rid of the markups. I want to go with what everybody else says, or there's certain things I don't want to go with. In any case, it's up here in the changes group to accept or reject. And that's the next training video. In the previous training video, we learned how to turn on the track changes feature, which means anytime that anybody makes any changes to your document, it'll keep track of it. And in this example, I asked Mr. Humphreys to make some changes as well, so you can see the difference between his changes and comments and mine. So first off, I've got the first change. When I hover over it, you can see in the pop-up, that's me. I made the change, and what did I do? You can see in the pop-up inserted the add text. And then when I go to the next one, hover over it, well, it's got a comment that's tied to the change, so it's just going to display the comment when I hover over it and not the actual, change. And if I'd like to see the change, not the comment, well, you can do one of a couple of things. First off, when you insert a comment, don't tie it to the text that you are changing, which really doesn't make any sense because you do want to make a comment about what you changed, at least I do. And the other option, which makes more sense to me, is to come up here and click on the Review tab, go to the Tracking group, and do not show your comments. Go ahead and uncheck it. The comments are gone, or they're hidden. So when you hover over it, now it doesn't display the comment, but the actual change. As it says in the pop-up, I deleted the word night. But let's go ahead and show those comments, bring them back. And let's go to the next change. Got one right here, hover over it. And you can see that Mr. Humphrey says in the pop-up, or you can read it over here in the comment over to the far right, he wants me to use adversities as opposed to the word hardships. And, well, he'd like to see the hardships removed. And then down below that, we just have a comment tied to that entire paragraph. And in the pop-up, he says fabulous babes, or, well, fabulous imagery. And then down below that, there's some changes, but who made them? Okay, Mr. Humphreys, but no comment. So he inserted, well, it looks like maybe a space, and then the E. Oh, he added an E. Oh, that's nice. Now, when it comes to going through your document, going from change to change and trying to identify, well, this is so tiny here, it's hard to really see that there was a change. What can help you out is, well, with the cursor flashing up at the top of the document, is to come up here and go to the Changes group. And you can go from change to change, and it also includes comments. So when I click on Next, it goes to the first change and it highlights it, and I can identify it going, oh, that's a change. Hover over it, learn more about it, and then I can click Next. To go to the next change, click Next, and then it goes from that change to the comment. And I can go ahead and go Previous. So, if I'm in the middle of the document and I go from that point down by clicking on Next, there you go. And or go up by clicking on Previous, well, go for it. You can do that to jump around. You can also, let me go ahead and click at the beginning, click on the Accept or Reject options. When you click on the Accept drop-down arrow, you can accept and move to the next text. Well, I don't have any text that I have selected that has changed for me to accept. So when I just go ahead and click on this, it takes me to the next text, at which point I can go ahead and click on the drop-down arrow and accept the change and then move to the next change, or just simply stay put and accept the change and not move anywhere else. or accept all changes within the document, or accept all and then stop the tracking, which, I'm going to go ahead and stop it right now. So that way, if I want to add anything else, it doesn't keep track of the changes I make. I'd like to do my own thing here. So you got that for accepting, or you can just go ahead and click on the accept button once it goes right to that change to accept or reject, or you can go ahead and click on the reject drop-down arrow because, if you don't want it, then go ahead and get rid of it. You can pretty much do the same thing. Reject and move to the next change, reject the change and stay put. You get the option to reject all changes shown, but I don't get that yet. And then reject all changes and reject all changes and stop tracking. So for this one, the text add text, I'm going to reject the change and move to the next change. And you can see it got rid of it, so it no longer has the add text. And it goes to this one, and let's see, strobing the night. I don't like night, please use something else. Well, you know what? I'd like to reject that. Click on the reject button, and then it goes to the comment saying, okay, well, you rejected the change. Now what about the comment that's tied to it? Do you want to go ahead and leave the comment, or go ahead and reject the comment, in which case it gets rid of it, or let me hit undo. You can come up here and delete the comment, in which case it gets rid of it as well. So whatever works best for you. Or you can just go ahead and leave the comment because maybe it's something you want to pontificate later on, in which case leave it as is and maybe resolve the comments saying, look, for right now it's resolved, but I'd like to keep it for a later reference. Or go ahead and make a reply to your reply and say, think about using another word. Okay, the mark resolves, so that way when I come back to the document and I want to look at the comments, I can see that this has been resolved, but why has it been resolved? Well, you can see right there, think about using another word, question mark. And if I'm like, you know what, I'm done with it. Let's just go ahead and get rid of the comment completely because after so many reviews, I'm like, I'm not using another word. You can go ahead and right click on it and delete the comment. And what's interesting is it deletes my comment, but it doesn't delete the entire comment here. So make sure you're careful about where you're right clicking. So if I want to get rid of the entire comment, well, with it selected here, you can see up here in the comments group, you got, well, the delete comment. You can also click on the drop down arrow and delete this one, delete all comments shown, or delete all comments in the document. Well, I won't do that. Let's just go ahead and delete this one. So with the right click on the actual comment here, well, it's the only comment. If I had replies and I right clicked on the reply, it would delete the reply. But since it's just a single comment, no other replies, when I delete it, it gets rid of it completely. So let's go ahead and go to the next change, and we can accept or reject that. Years, pain and hardships, use adversities. Forget it, reject. And then it goes to the comment, and I can reply and say, no way, I like hardships, and then go ahead and resolve it. Or, you can delete it. It just depends on how you want to manage your document. Maybe you want to go ahead and send this back to him as a review to show him that, hey, I'm going to stick with hardships. It's resolved. You can still see the comment. And if you disagree, go ahead and reopen it and type in something else. And then send it back to me, and I can further consider what you're going through here. And if I made a mistake and I'm like, no, I don't want to have my comment here, again, make sure you know where you're right-clicking because, if I right-click on Mr. Humphreys here and delete the entire comment, it's gone. Let me hit undo, but if I right-click on my name here and delete my comment, the Mr. Humphrey stays. My comment below his, the reply, is gone. Well, let's go ahead and right-click on Mr. Humphreys and delete it. Well, you get the option to reply or to reopen. Let's go ahead and delete that and go to the next. And he says, fabulous imagery. Oh, that was nice. I can reply and say that was nice, or you know what, I'm good. Now, when it comes to the comments, you know how we're going from one change to the next, which includes the comments? You can bypass the changes and just go from one comment to the next. So if I go ahead and hit undo to bring the other comment back, and I go to the next comment, to the previous comment, again, just from comment to comment. So I can go ahead and delete that comment, go to the next comment, and delete that one. We're done with comments, but what about changes? Well, some of these changes are so teeny tiny. If I didn't know any better, I'd probably say, well, I'm done. So instead, I can go ahead and click on Next and say, let's accept that change. So there's a space between so and R. I do want the E, so let's go ahead and do this. With those last two that are there, because over here on the right-hand side, that's the only line within the entire document for that line that says that changes have been made. And we have a total of 2. So I can go ahead and click on the drop down arrow and say accept all changes. And there you go. Those last 2 changes have been accepted. Mission completo. I'd like to go back to page width so it fills up the entire screen, and now I can see it. And you can too. In the past couple of training videos, we learned about the track changes feature, that when you turn it on for a document, like if I do it for my original poem here, poem A, it'll keep track of any changes that anybody makes to the document in a color of my choice. But what if I forgot to turn that feature on and I want to keep track and view the changes that somebody else makes to it? So if I send it off to somebody and they send it back to me and forgot to turn it on before they made changes to it, well, I got some options here. When they send it back to you, if it's got the same name, you don't want to save it over the original unless of course you're okay with that. But what I did is I saved it as a copy and called it Poem B. So I have my original and I have the revised version. So let's go ahead and open up the original, double click. And then to open up the revised, come up here on the quick access toolbar. I added the open command to it, so click on open. Opens up the open window, and we're on the desktop. In the main view on the desktop is Poem B, the revised, double click. And there you go. Now you can see down below on the taskbar I've got a button for the corresponding window that I have open. So I'm in Poem B. Let's go back to Poem A. And the title, There's No Other Way. Go back to Poem B. There's No Way. Okay, that was pretty obvious, but you can imagine going back and forth between the two. That can be annoying. You could also come up here and click on the View tab, go to the window group, and click on Arrange All, in which case it arranges all the windows that are open. I just have 2, so they're stacked. And you can see between the 2, there's no way, and there's no other way. And if you need more room, well, you can go ahead and double click on the tabs to collapse the ribbon. There we go. Lightning breaks across the sky, lightning streaks across the sky. So for the original, it was streaks, and for Poem B, the revised, it's breaks. Now that's still annoying. So instead, how about if we use the compare feature? It's just so tinsel. Let's go ahead and close out of the revised and maximize the original. And, well, let's bring up the ribbon again, double click really fast. So now it's permanent. And to go ahead and compare between the 2 documents, let's come up here, click on the Review tab, go to the Compare group, and there you go, click on Compare. Now you get 2 options. You can compare and combine. They're both comparing, but the difference between the 2 is that for comparing, look at the image. It's just between 2 documents, the original and the revised. Where combining, there's the original. You can actually compare with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, well, as many versions of the original that you want to combine into it to compare with the original. And we'll talk about that in the next training video. But it brings up a good point. When it comes to using either one or the other, you want to make sure that they're not just any 2 documents, which makes sense because if you have one document on recipes and another document on construction, what's the point in comparing between the 2? So more to the point, when you want to use these features, well, go ahead and send off your original, and when they get it and they make changes to it, whoever that person is, and they send it back, then go ahead and save it as a copy of the original, with a different name. Like the example, Poem A is my original and Poem B is the copy of it. And then you can go ahead and use the compare between the 2. And we'll cover combine in the next training video when it's more than 2. Let's go ahead and click on Compare, opens up the Compare Documents window, and it says, okay, where's your original and where's the revised? I know we have the original open, but it still wants it tagged here, so click on the drop-down arrow, and you can browse for it, or if it's a document that you opened up recently, you can go ahead and search for it. Well, I got different copies of it. It'd be just easier for me if I, instead of scrolling down through here, click on Browse there, opens up the open window, or of course you can click on the Browse Folder button, opens up the same window, and there's Poem A, or Poem, double click, the original, then the revised. Let's go ahead and click on the Browse button to Poem B. Cool. And then when it comes to changes, how do you want to label them? Well, if I sent the original Poem A off to Carrie and she sent it back to me and I saved it as the copy, well, with the name Poem B so I don't overwrite the original, and Carrie made the changes, then I want to put in her name and not mine, right? So I can label those changes under her name, because unlike the Track Changes feature, when that's turned on, it tags her username to any changes that she makes. But because it's not turned on, then how do you know, or how do you want to keep track of those changes that were made? Well, by typing in the name of the person who sent a copy of the original back to you, for me to go ahead and tag here so I can remember that when it comes to comparing, that the changes were made by Carrie. Now, after you go ahead and find your original and your revised, you're like, wait a second, those ought to be switched. If for some reason they need to be switched, go ahead and click on the switch button. So poem B is the original and A is the revised, but I want to switch them back. Cool. Let's go ahead and click on more to see what other options we get. When it comes to comparing, you can compare moves, comments, formatting. Well, you can leave them all checked. Or if it's just for one type of comparison, like tables. If you have a couple of tables that you send it off, somebody makes changes to some of them, well, you can just go ahead and compare those if that's the only thing that matters to you. I'm going to go ahead and leave all of them checked. And then when it comes to the show changes section, you can show the changes at the character level, but I want to keep it simple. We'll leave it at the word level. And you can show those changes, well, the default's a new document, or you can show them in the original or the revised, but I'd like to keep those intact and not overwrite accidentally the original or the revised. So let's do a new document and click Okie dokie. Hey, there we go. You can see up here on the title bar, it's document 1. So it's got the original open, but now it's got the comparing between the two here. Now, if you can't see the markups in the new compared window, well, as you recall, in the track changes training video, you can come up here to the tracking group, and right now it's simple markup, and you got these lines over here that represent changes made to, well, that line, changes made to that line, changes made to that line. So if you want to see them, you can come up here and click on all markup, or just come over here and click on any one of these red lines here to show those changes, and it shows all the changes or all the markups as you can see up here. So then you can go ahead and go through what we did in the accept reject changes training video, which is up here in the changes group, to go from one change to the next. So to go to the first change, the cursor's right there. Let me click next. And when I hover over it, who made the change? It's Carrie. How did it know that? Well, remember, I had to type in her name so I can identify that it was her that sent me the copy back and the changes that she made to it. And so she deleted other way and inserted way. So if I don't like other way deleted, then I can go ahead and reject that, and it goes to the insertion saying, do you want to keep that? And I can reject that. Then it goes to the next change. In any case, you can go ahead and watch that training video to get more details about accepting and rejecting. But you can also bring up the reviewing pane if you want to do it that way and not use the changes group. So go ahead and click on that, and you can view it vertically or horizontally. If you do it vertically, well, it's vertical over here as opposed to horizontal down at the bottom. And here are the remaining changes. So she deleted streaks and added breaks. So if I come over here and I say, well, I don't like breaks, I like break. If I go ahead and delete the S, well, you can see that over here it deletes it there as well. Cool. So you can go ahead and revise her revisions here. And then, of course, go ahead and accept or reject them. And then say OK. Let's click back before it, or you can leave it after and then just go to previous and say break. OK, I made the change. Just a minor tweak. Instead of rejecting the whole thing, just a simple removing a letter here and saying let's accept it. Okay, then we have to go back up and get rid of streaks. So let's go ahead and click next change and accept the deletion. Lightning break across the sky. Okay, breaks, but you get the idea of what I'm trying to accomplish here, that when you want to revise the revisions and add some extra text or make a few changes here, well, there you go, you can do that. And then if you want to be able to view the original and the revised at the same time you're viewing the main document here, the comparison between the two, you can come up here and click on compare and go to the show source documents so you can look at the original. There we go. So there's compare, there's the original, and so the original is lightning streaks as opposed to lightning break. And then if you want to see, well, click on the drop down arrow. Also the revised or both, how about that? There we go, original and the revised. And then when you're done with any one of them, of course, you can go ahead and close out of them and always bring them back on the fly with a click. And when I'm done, I can come up here, click on save. It forces a save as because, I mean, who wants the generic name? Compare result 1. And we can say it's the best of, let's see, poem A and B. And then go ahead and click save. Cool. Close out. And let me close out of poem A. And there we go. There's my original. There's the revised that Carrie sent me. And here's the marriage of the two where I said, I like some of my stuff. I like some of yours. And so that way, if I ever want to go back to the original or I want to go to the revised again because I'm like, wait a second, I think I like what she did before. And well, there you go. Now let's go ahead and cover the combining documents, which if you haven't watched the previous training video on comparing, you'll want to watch that because I go over the basics of comparing and combining, and they're pretty much the same. The only thing that's different between the two is that when it comes to combining, you can do it to 2 or more documents. With comparing, it's only between 2 documents. So if you have your original and you have a revised copy that somebody sent to you of the original and you want to compare between the two, there's the previous training video. But if it's 2 or more versions, then use this training video so I can show you how you can combine 2 or more to the original. So let's go ahead and open up the original, double click, and then come up here, click on the Review tab, and go to the Compare group, click on Compare, and there you go, that's what I was talking about. Is between the original and 1 revision as opposed to the original and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, well, as many revisions as you want to combine to compare between each revision. So let's go ahead and click on Combine. It opens up the same window as we saw in the previous training video, well, except this one's combining. So the original document, well, we're in it, but it wants us to define it again. So let's go ahead and click on the Browse button, and it's Poem A, double click, and the revised is going to be Poem B, double click. And then as far as keeping track of the changes that were made by, well, whoever made it in Poem B, let's say it was Carrie, we can go ahead and type in her name. So we can label those changes, things that are different from the original by her. And then down below you got all the comparison settings, and we covered that in the previous training video. Here I want it in a new document, so we'll go ahead and click Okie dokie. Opens up the new document, and there's all the changes. When I hover over it, it's got her name tied to it because, well, I said anything that's different from the original, I want her tagged to it. And so that's for the first version that I combined with the original. And so I can go ahead, as we covered in an earlier training video on accepting and rejecting changes, going from one change to the next. So when you click Next, you can go ahead and with it selected, accept it or reject it. So if I go ahead and reject that, and I also want to reject her deleting other way, reject that in any case you get the idea. Let's go ahead and undo that a couple of times there. Because once you combine that, and you want to combine, well, the difference between Carrie and the original with somebody else, like Mr. Humphreys, who's Poem C, then come over here and click on Compare, and go down to Combine. And, well, we haven't saved the document number 4 here, which you can if you want to save it and call it whatever you want to call it between the two, the original and Carrie Heffernan. You can. Or if you want to leave it open, that's fine. You just have to click on the drop-down arrow because you won't be able to find it on the desktop because, again, it hasn't been saved. And it will be in this list here. You just have to scroll through it to find the name of it, which is Document 4. There it is. Select it. And we can go ahead and click on Browse for the next version, which is Poem C by Mr. Humphreys. Double-click. And we want to label any unmarked changes with Mr. Humphreys. So we'll do Mr. H. Sound good? Go ahead and click Okie dokie, and it opens up a new window with the changes, not only by Carrie, so when I hover over her changes, you can see in the pop-up her name tagged to it. And let's see if that's her. Yes. And what about this one? Hey, that's Mr. H. And this one? Mr. H. And this one? Carrie. Isn't that just so cool? And so you can go ahead and save this or keep combining. So you can go ahead and combine. And then, find document 5 here. And there it is, select it. And then browse for Poem D. And then just keep doing that over and over again until you got everybody combined into the original, as it were, with all the changes that they made. And if it helps, you may want to do this one step at a time. So after you combine the two, you can go ahead and save it. And then after you save it, combine the next one into that one, then save it, and then combine the next one into that and save it. And keep doing that until you have them all combined. Sweet. And then, of course, if you'd like, with all these changes here, after you accept and reject them, you can save it over the original by when you do click on Save. Forces you to do a Save As. Just go ahead and select the name of the original, click Save. Well, because it's actually active and being used by the program, I can't overwrite it, so I'd have to close out of everything. But in any case, you can go ahead and overwrite the original when you close out of Word and open it back up. Maybe you want to save it as something else. Instead of combined 5 result, save it as combo, and then go ahead and close out of all the documents to refresh it, open it back up, and then save it over the original. Or, as we talked about, you can go ahead when you're doing the comparison, either compare or combine, click on that. When you choose the original and the revised, you can say, look, I want to show the changes or merge the changes into the original, and then in the original accept or reject there, if you're okay with that. And sometimes it may be where you want to do that, and sometimes you want to keep the original as is and just have a copy of the combination, combining or comparing between the documents into a new document. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel to get notified of the latest videos. And for great specials on my products, please see the description below this video.